So there's a huge gap between what is communicated by the scientists to the stakeholders and to the practitioners and to the community, to the citizens. Now, scientists generally work in their own silos, and we have our own scientific jargon. But when we, and I say we as in the whole scientific community, and I can of course speak for myself. So when I go and speak, and I go to churches, I go to middle schools as well as high schools, elementary schools. So we have to learn how to speak their language, because if you use all this jargon, it doesn't really make sense, and it's not going to be much effective in making them understand the outcomes of what needs to be done, how things are to be mitigated, how climate change can be resolved. And it's not just a one-time go, it's a collective effort if we really have to work on climate change and do something, make changes, at the local, regional, and global scale. So I would say 1/3 of my research goes into education and outreach. And that, of course, as some of you know, and if you're in academia, you would realize that we do publish, journal papers, but that doesn't go out to the common public. But then we do conferences, do presentations. That's also great. But again, that is pretty much limited to a certain section of the crowd of people. And so when it comes to education and outreach, what we do is, in our university and in all other universities is, we do outreach activities. We go to middle schools, we go to high schools, elementary schools, as I mentioned earlier on, and make them do hands-on activities. In my case, what I do is I take these infrared thermometers. They are like measuring temperature, so they look like infrared guns, and you can point at different objects and kind of see what the temperature is. So I go there, I take those infrared thermometers, and they point at anything white, like a white car and a black car, and the black roof, or a black road surface and a white road surface. And they could actually see the difference in temperature, say, at any time of the day. And they would see, hey, why is this black car 2 degrees hotter, or 5 degrees? Sometimes in the middle of the day, it's like 6, 7 degrees hotter than a white car, right? And we have all used cars of different colors, so we know how hot it is when we get into a car, right after it's out there in the sun. So that's how we make the middle school students and the younger generation, they have to start thinking, they have to get into this systems thinking and trying to understand critically, evaluate and understand why climate change is important, and how even small little things which we are doing at the urban scale in our day-to-day lives, how that can translate into the bigger picture of climate change. So that's one part of the school education outreach which I do. The other one is we do a lot of workshops for stakeholders, for practitioners. I've spoken to the city where I live in Auburn. We have gone and spoken to the mayor's office. We go and talk to even the people in different offices who are in community planning. Like, how do you do stormwater management? Because we have these rainfall events, extreme rainfall events, and you would see that they are flooding different cities. We have seen in all over the world, all these hurricanes and typhoons and the tropical cyclones. They bring in a lot of rain, and it's flooding the streets and the homes. Millions of dollars are lost, because of property damage, because of these rain events. So what do we do in urban areas mostly? So how do we manage our stormwater? How do we do it better so that flooding is reduced and property damage is reduced, more, less number of lives are lost? So that's what I do when I go out and talk to stakeholders and practitioners. That's a big job, because again, like I began saying, that there's a huge gap between the scientists and the common people and the practitioners and the scientists and the practitioners and the stakeholders. So it's very important to do outreach and to communicate in non-scientific methods and make them understand what climate change is and what we can do as individuals, as collective community, to help adapt and mitigate some of these effects of climate change.